The following program is intended for mature audiences.
You come to expect this in Denver, but not in October. Snow and freezing cold. Weather conditions as the undefeated Rams take on the Denver Nuggets.
You're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes.
And check out every episode of the show at basicallysports.tumblr.com.
Now here's your hosts, Zach,
Greg, Mike.
And you're listening to Basically a Sports Show.
Let's get this Brandiose thing out of the way because, first off, I'm dying to know what it is, but secondly...
Okay, fuck Brandiose. I have nothing but bad things to say.
So,
screw them.
Hold on. For people that don't know what we're talking about, the San Diego Padres have a new affiliate in Amarillo, Texas.
I think they literally did what... I forget who it was on the boards that said this. They picked just two random things and threw them together. That's really what it sounds like.
Well, you might be right because I found a video of a local news station going literally to all the random people on the street they could find and asking if they knew what this was, and all of them were like, what?
But let me guess, Brandiose claims that it has some sort of tie to local something or another, right?
It supposedly is a nickname for an actual thing. The finalists, by the way, here's the other finalists. The Amarillo Boot Scooters.
Oh, God.
The Amarillo Bronc Busters.
All right, that makes a little more sense.
The Amarillo Jerky. Amarillo Long Haulers.
After trucking?
Yeah.
I think I could work with that, yeah.
After the announcement, many Amarilloans called for the team to go back to the drawing board. They didn't like any of the options. The Amarillo Sod Poodles. Sod Poodles.
Obviously, we can't do this because we're not doing this live. But if we were, I would offer $50 to the first person that could call in and tell us what a sod poodle is without looking it up. We would be sitting here all night waiting, I promise you. So, Zach, enlighten us. What is a sod poodle?
I assumed it was a prairie dog, but...
It is a prairie dog.
Okay.
Good call, Mike. I'm going to call it what it is. It's the Ewoks of the Brandiose Extended Universe.
So looking at the pictures, here's my problem with that. Like, depending on which logo you're looking at, its head is either coming out of a hole, and it's always wearing a hat. So it's or in the one where it looks like it's about to draw its guns, that which it has no guns in or gun holsters. So I don't know why it's standing like that. Most of its face is covered up by a hat or a hole or a bandana or any of this stuff. So you look at it, and because it's a prairie dog, it has no real defining features except for the ones that you covered up. Like, what are you supposed to make of this? I literally thought it was like a horse or a camel that was anthropomorphized into a cowboy of some sort. Like, I don't.
Well, you got it exactly right, except it's a prairie dog. Other than that, you're right. It's all the other stuff that it applies. I don't know what to say about these guys anymore. I don't remember when they got started.
All just fucking self-parody at this point. They are a parody of themselves, and they've started embracing these identities that, to me, are parodies of what a fun minor league identity should be.
Yeah.
You have stuff like the Montgomery Biscuits, which is fun. But then you have crap like this, and if you were writing a story that included a minor league baseball team and you wanted to take the piss out of minor league ball, this is the name you would give the fictional team as like a parody to show how insane it can be.
Yeah, they've really just taken this whole thing, which it started out with some cool ideas like the Biscuits, the Lug Nuts in Lansing that were cool. And you go, these are fun. It's got to credit Argentina Mike from the old Logo Cast. It's got the right amount of whimsy to make it a cool thing. And it has so jumped the shark at this point. This stuff is just stupid. Just call yourself the Prairie Dogs and be done with it. All right, guys, breaking news from the National Football League. Hue Jackson has been hired by the Cincinnati Bengals as a special assistant to Marvin Lewis.
What the hell is wrong with Ohio?
Did anybody think Hue Jackson would get another job?
Why?
I don't know, but he's back with the Bengals.
I thought he'd get another job, like, eventually as, like, a coordinator.
Yeah.
But not a week later.
Yeah. Well, he went to the one place where he knew he'd be safe. Marvin Lewis is going to be there forever, so he just, hitch my wagon back to Marvin, I'm good to go. I couldn't believe it when I saw that.
Was he not making enough salary or something? Like
he's not a contract, right? Like, I'm sure he could sit at home and just collect Browns paychecks for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I'm sure those Browns paychecks, I think they had to pay him through this season and maybe next. And I would bet you that the paychecks from that are significantly larger than the ones he's going to get from the Bengals.
Honestly, just sit home for 2 years and just collect free money.
Yeah, guys.
You don't have to work for.
The more I learned about Hue Jackson as this whole thing transpired, the dude is a raging egomaniac.
He's delusional. And as soon as I saw it was Marvin Lewis, I thought that makes so much sense. That's just perfect. Like when he was like, I was this close to like turning them around. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure the team was like degrading under your, like they were going the other direction. Well, yeah, they dominate. I mean, speaking of that, it took them 2 weeks to finally kind of get back on their feet again, but boy, did they look good against the Falcons on Sunday. And I think part of that, the Falcons just aren't very good outdoors in the cold. So I'm not going to make too much out of it, but the Browns dominated that game. It was never as close as the score would indicate. Never. It was never in doubt who was going to win that game. It was fun to watch. And the offense wasn't predictable. It was just something. It was like, wow, so this is what this team's capable of when they don't have an idiot running the show. I just want to go back to it because I want to the whole Hue Jackson thing because friend of the show and Bengals fan, McCarthy, a long-suffering Bengals fan,
yes,
pointed out again that Hue Jackson's title is special assistant to the head coach. He's Dwight Schrute of the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah. That's what I mean. He basically Marvin Lewis just brought him in like, okay, you can have a job again, Hugh.
But it's baffling because why would Marvin Lewis do that? Like, what need is Hue Jackson going to fill that he needed filled? And B, if you're Hue Jackson, why do you even want another job when you've got 2 years of guaranteed money coming in? Like, just take your money, man. It's probably going to be enough to retire off of.
Ego. I'm telling you, it's ego. That's the way the guy is. He wants to show that he was not wrong here, that none of this was his fault, not a bit of it.
And the Bengals are going to be his avenue for that.
Well, to be fair to Hugh, he did do a pretty good job when he was the offensive coordinator there for a little bit.
But he's not the offensive coordinator.
I know.
What's he going to do? Like that's the thing. Like is anyone going to give Hue Jackson another shot at being an NFL head coach based off how well he did as the special assistant to the head coach? Like, I don't even know what he does. What's he going to do?
Hey, Hugh, I need some coffee. I don't know.
What's he going to do? Like, even if the Bengals have like an amazing next couple of years, like, is anyone going to be able to tell you like what role Hue Jackson played in it? No.
I don't get it.
At least if he was the offensive coordinator, you could say, oh, he ran the offense, right?
I don't understand it. Marvin Lewis, I have a great comfort level with Hugh and his ability to assist me with the day-to-day responsibilities on defense, including analyzing our opponents and helping me on game days with players and the defensive coaches.
I have
Don't you employ enough people already that do that?
Yeah.
Well, this is Marvin Lewis we're talking about.
Don't you have a staff of coaches
who
allegedly do this job?
It's Marvin Lewis, and I think these guys are probably just good buddies, and Marvin's like, hey, they're never going to fire me.
I have a great comfort level. Basically, I like having him around.
Yeah, essentially. Anyway.
Just
when you think the thing can't get any weirder.
I don't get it.
No one's going to get it. But I guarantee you this is all Hugh trying to prove that none of what happened in Cleveland was his fault. Not a bit of it. Yet, Greg Williams, who's not exactly known as a great coach, took this team and in 2 weeks made them play the best football game I've seen them play probably since they beat the Patriots 3 or 4 years ago when they just stomped the Patriots that 1 week. I mean, they looked like a real football team again. It was a sight to behold. So, but none of it was your fault, Hugh. It was all just bad luck and bad timing, asshole.
Hue Jackson and Jeff Fisher should get together.
Yeah, but where do we want to start with the NFL? I know that the legend has ended.
The saga is over.
The song of Nathan Peterman.
I think we should all stop for a second, for a moment.
A ballad of Nathan Peterman.
We should stop and not talk for a second so that I have time to drop in a bunch of sound bites that'll make fun of him. So that's plenty. Okay.
All you have to do is play that Jim Rome clip. Like, that's all you really need. Like,
the end of Nathan Peterman's career came as Matt Barkley.
Hey, and you know what?
Matt Barkley.
Yeah.
Me in particular, we don't get a lot of things right on this show, but when we do get something right, we're right. And we said that Matt Barkley last week.
It was you.
Why the guy? I remember saying he didn't play great, but he had a couple of games in Chicago where he thought, oh, he could be okay. And look what he does. And then I think, oh my God, the Jets. Wow.
Oh, the Jets.
Wow.
Matt Barkley literally came in off the scrap heap.
Yeah.
But, to the Jets' defense, they were playing Zeppo McCown in this one.
Yes.
Who threw for 135 yards and no touchdowns.
But a couple interceptions.
Yeah. Yeah, because
a Peterman-esque performance, one could say.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
The Bills go on the road with a quarterback who's been there for like 6 days.
I thought he'd been on the practice squad all season, but
yeah, that makes sense.
But I don't think he was. I think they picked him up. He hadn't been. What I read is he had been out of football for 2 years. So here's to give you an idea of how bad Nathan Peterman was. Matt Barkley, out of football for 2 years, shows up a week later, goes out and plays better than Nathan Peterman could ever hope to.
How does that work? Like, I just imagining Matt Barkley sitting on his couch, probably, watching, some made-for-TV movie on USA.
Right.
Eating from like a bag of chips. He gets a call, and it's the Buffalo Bills, and they're like, Matt, Nathan Peterman is a disaster. We need you. Just go.
So
all right.
it's worse than that. So at the beginning of the year, on March 17th, he was signed. Well, so you said he was out for 2 years, Greg. So
that's what I read. I thought I read that. I'm not sure.
He was with the Bears in 2016. In 2017, he was signed by the Niners in March of 2017 on a 2-year deal. He was then released by the Niners at the end of the preseason after being beaten out by Brian Hoyer and C.J. Beathard. So that was at the end of the preseason in September. It took until November when he was re-signed by the Cardinals due to Drew Stanton being injured. He was inactive for the entire season, didn't play any football there in Arizona. So that's one full season where he didn't play. Then in March of this year, he was signed on a 2-year deal by the Bengals. He was then placed on injured reserve on September 1st, and then was released on September 12th with an injury settlement. The Bills signed him on October 31st, and then he was put into action this last week, making his first start in 2 years.
So he wasn't completely out of football. He just hadn't played in 2 years.
Right, yeah.
And he walked. So he basically
bounced around on some preseason contracts. And,
right.
He was around, but he wasn't playing.
And he walks in off the street and takes the Bills out, and they win by their biggest score of the year.
Yeah.
And what is it with these Buffalo Bills?
He had preseason, too.
What is it with these Buffalo Bills? When they win, when they decide to play, they really win. I mean, they throttled Minnesota 27-6. Then they were horrible. I forget who was it? They've won 3 games. Who was the other one that they won?
They beat the Titans.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, was that like that? No, that was the Titans, Jacksonville.
That's Nathan Peterman's lone win is against the Titans.
Nathan Peterman had a win?
Yeah.
Well, then what was the thing?
I think that was a field goal game, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a field goal. That was a field goal game, but he was there. He was the quarterback.
Oh, I love this headline on ESPN. It says, Marvin Lewis is planning to fix the Bengals, bring back Hue Jackson. Well, I was going to say when we talked about Nathan Peterman, I was going to ask, do you think it's possible he ever gets another NFL job? And I would have said no until 20 minutes ago. But now that I see Hue Jackson's back, anything's possible. I'm taking all bets off the table.
Again, Matt Barkley at least had shown some acumen at some point.
True.
To come to scrap heap in return. Nathan Peterman has shown nothing. And literally the Bills were just waiting until anybody showed that they were more competent than him, and they found it in Matt Barkley somehow.
I mean, the whole thing with Nathan Peterman is that, again, like, statistically, he might be at least the worst quarterback since the merger.
Yeah. Well, this thing that you sent, Mike, I thought was pretty good. I'll read it real quick.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers could throw 1,240 consecutive interceptions on 1,240 straight pass attempts and still have a better career TD to interception ratio than Nathan Peterman. Now, that tells you something, folks. 1,240 straight interceptions, and his interception to TD ratio is still better than Peterman's.
The stats just keep getting better, by the way, on this list. That one's pretty good, but I love he threw 3 interceptions and no touchdowns, and his passer rating went up.
From 20.8 to 30.7.
It was because it was only 3 picks. It was a statistical improvement.
Yeah. And then I love this, too, that if he had just simply spiked the ball into the ground on every single play of his career, he would have had a better QB rating than he ended up with. Because that's because of the interceptions too. Because if he was just throwing the ball into the ground, at least he's not throwing it to the other team.
Right. Well, what are we going to do without this guy?
Like I said, the legend is over, but we will never forget.
No, I think you're right. I think that he may go down as the greatest player of all time just because of the impact he had on the game. I mean, it's impact. It may not be positive, but there was definitely an impact.
But that's the thing is, like, we've had bad quarterbacks in the past, but they're usually they're bad for like a game or two. It's like, okay, this guy can't play, and then you forget about them, or their career backups or whatever. Nathan Peterman is historically and just like surprisingly stands out for his tenure as a bad quarterback.
When I looked it up before last week's show, I found that one guy that I'd never heard of that played for the Falcons for 2 years that may have been, I don't know, maybe not. When you look at it from a statistical standpoint, probably wasn't quite as bad, but he was the closest thing I could come up with. Well, and he was a guy that had played like 5 games or 6 or 10 or whatever. Right. And yeah.
That's the thing is these guys, when they're bad, they play at most like 2-3 games.
Yeah.
Nathan Peterman was allowed to exist. This is week 10. And he threw 5 interceptions and a half last year.
And how do you seriously, if you're the management of that team, how can you possibly keep a coach that says, no, I'm going to go back to this guy yet again? And I understand that at a certain point, but we talked about this too. There had to be somebody out there better, or at least that maybe not necessarily better, but
fault? Is that the coach's fault that he was the only quarterback left on the roster?
That's a good point. That's a good point. I never thought about it like that.
That's the GM's fault too.
Yeah?
The fact that they had to keep playing Nathan Peterman because there was literally nobody else to put out there.
Yeah, well, McDermott kind of stood behind him quite a bit too, which again, you can't throw him under the bus. I understand
yes
that, but
no, but when he had a healthy Derek Anderson, who again isn't anything to fucking like prop up, he at least played Derek Anderson when he had the opportunity. The only reason that they had to go back to Peterman was Allen was hurt and Anderson was hurt, and it's like, well, you're here.
Now, here's my question. Did you think Bills fans went, thank God it's Matt Barkley, or like, oh my God, I mean, now it's Matt Barkley? I'm thinking they probably went, great, Matt Barkley.
Anything's better than Nathan Peterman. Like if I were a Bills fan, I would have been in the mentality of anyone, literally anyone, but Nathan Peterman. Like Bills fans started a GoFundMe so Peterman could retire.
Well, and that stat that Zach brought up, which, you know, it goes back to us and the Mike Smith Olympic hockey thing, that he played exactly as much as we did. Mm-hmm. We could have gone out there, any one of the three of us, and done exactly what that stat said, just throw the ball into the ground, and we would have had better stats than Nathan Peterman, or a better quarterback rating. That's how bad the guy was. Unbelievable. But yeah, Matt Barkley steps up and, well, he didn't save the season, but I don't know what he did, but it was sure something.
Well, he at least cleansed the Buffalo Bills.
A little bit, yeah. So I take it he's going to start again next week?
Yeah.
Oh, they're on a bye. They're on a bye this week, so they might have time to get Allen healthy again, but...
Yeah, I mean, he has to play, right?
Yeah, and Nathan Peterman has been cut. And again, a half hour ago, I just said no way he ever gets another NFL job, but...
I can't see who would who is so desperate?
Okay, is it desperate or who is so full of themselves they think they could actually make a quarterback out of this guy?
If it's going to be anyone, it's going to be the Raiders. It'll
There
be
you
like
go.
John Gruden being like, I can do it.
I bet you anything. And I can see Gruden already. Yeah, we were going to give this guy a chance because I'm telling you, man, I'm like, oh fuck. And speaking of that, how great has that all worked out? The Raiders thing. They're worse than I thought they were going to be.
Let's go to that game. Your Los Angeles Chargers
of Costa Mesa.
With a 20-6 win. The Chargers rolling along nicely.
7-2.
7-2. I mean,
better record than the New England Patriots right now.
That's only one game behind the Rams.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of us is in first place.
Yeah, but I got to say, just from a purely on the field standpoint, the battle for LA a lot closer than I thought it would be at this point.
Battle of LA.
We won the head-to-head. And you'll be rooting for the Rams on Monday night anyway to get the Chiefs down a peg too.
Oh yeah, certainly.
But and look, I'm not at a good place with Charger fans. I had to sit a couple rows behind one at the Rams Seahawks game, and this man in a Phillip Rivers jersey vehemently rooting for the Seahawks all day long.
Oh.
And
that's just an asshole move. That's an asshole move.
He was just being a jerk about it too.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, guy. Relax.
Well, I do apologize on behalf of the Chargers suburb for that.
There used to be a guy, when I lived in Syracuse, he was a Steelers fan, and we would go to a Browns bar to watch the Browns, and the Steelers fan would show up every week to root against whoever the Browns were playing. Wear all the Steelers gear, and I'm like, I was like, I don't get this. There's a Steeler bar, 3 miles away. Why don't you just go there? No, this is more fun.
And we're like, I'm sitting there and we're making fun of him, and he points up at the scoreboard. We're winning right now. We're winning, and I'm like, wait. So why did you come here instead of watching the Charger Raider game like on TV somewhere?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
Some fans are just, I don't know, they're just assholes. There's no other way to put it, and they just do. I mean, they go out of their way. It's like a real live troll, like an internet troll, except he's like in person.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Chargers 7-2 ahead of the Patriots, one game behind the Chiefs, and sitting pretty, I think.
The thing that sucks for the Chargers is just like, you're going to have this great season, and they have an opportunity to tie the Chiefs if the Chiefs or if the Rams beat the Chiefs on Monday, and I'm sure they still have one more game in Kansas City, right?
Yes,
but if they somehow end up. They could end up like what? Where they could end up like 13-3 at the end of it, or 12-4, and you're still going to be a wild card team.
Maybe.
If that's the case, like that sucks.
I'm still betting on it. I'm still betting on Andy Reid to Andy Reid.
I tell you what, the Rams defense has problems. We talked about it last week. The Chiefs defense has bigger problems than the Rams defense does. The Rams defense, and they were talking on the Bill Simmons podcast today that the defense can't close out a game with the Rams. I said, well, they kind of did yesterday. Dante Fowler got that strip sack, and
see, that's the thing. And I said that to you guys too. Like, the defense isn't great overall. The defense has not been good, but when it comes to closing out the games when they need them to, the defense steps up.
Yeah.
And it's a weird thing. Like, I wouldn't even call them a bend but don't break defense, because they break fairly often. But when it comes to the scope of an entire game, they will bend, they will give up points all game, but they will stand when they need to at the end of a game, which is good. But you'd like them to make some stops during the game. That would help out a lot.
You know what though? if I remember right, it was a Colts season where they just couldn't stop the run to save their lives.
It was the year they won the Super Bowl.
And they ended up winning the Super Bowl. Because when the playoffs hit, all of a sudden, they were stopping the run with no problem.
The thing that happened for them was Bob Sanders came back.
That's right. Yeah.
I remember he was injured for the whole season. Came back in week 15, and all of a sudden they won the damn
Because
Super Bowl.
you remember, I mean, there were teams that were just shredding them for 200 and 300 yards of rushing a game there for like a 3-week stretch.
Yeah.
But
so here's how the Chargers finish up. Okay, they've got the Broncos, Broncos at home, Cardinals at home. Chargers Steelers on the road.
That's gonna be a tough one.
Bengals at home, Chiefs on the road, Ravens at home, Broncos on the road.
I think they win most of those games.
I don't know, Mike. That Bengals game just got a lot tougher now that Hue Jackson's back.
Yeah, and really, most of those home games.
Because look at it like how about the Chargers? They get to face Hue Jackson twice in the same season. With different teams.
And looking at the home games they have left, besides the Broncos, maybe the Bengals, they're not going to have the same problem with road fans that they normally do. The Bronco fans will show up, but Bengals maybe, but otherwise Cardinals no, Baltimore no.
I bet you if they have this season in San Diego, that they could have rammed that new stadium through this time with this team, but they were not good enough. And I hate to say that because that's not a good enough reason to blow that much tax money on something. And I think Alex Spanos could have found a way to get it built privately, but that's another story.
Well, the San Diego State is getting a stadium, I think, down there.
Yes, they are. They are. Yes.
Which could have been the Chargers, but
and I still say
Dean decided to be a petulant idiot about it, and here we are.
When we are doing the 10th anniversary of Basically a Sports Show, the Chargers will be back in San Diego by then. I'm willing to bet.
They can't though.
Why?
The contracts and the money.
Yeah,
I think they're stuck. They're stuck here.
Nah, they can get out of that shit easy
Till
enough.
2040, I believe, is what the contract says.
Yeah, they can get out of that. Nobody wants them there anyway. I think if they said we want out of our contracts, the lawyers would be falling over themselves trying to get to the door to get it out to have them sign to get out of it.
But the issue is, does Dean or the Spanos, the Spani, do they say that, or do they take a Donald Sterling approach and say, hey, we're making plenty of money here, we don't really care?
I don't know. I think that, again, and the NFL has I believe a policy in their charter that they can step in and do what's best for the league, or maybe only it's baseball that has that, I don't know. But at some point, someone's got to step in and put a stop to this, because we've already seen them put ticket prices up there that make the Rams look like a bunch of thieving bastards by comparison. And that was not the intent. It's just that they're going way below market value because that's what they have to do.
I think that's part of the intent, though, is to market themselves as the affordable football team and not we're the team of the middle class, not the elitist Rams.
Okay. But anyways, they're having a great season, the Chargers. I wish it was happening in San Diego where someone was actually seeing it. That'd be great. And, they're ahead of the Patriots now, and any team that's ahead of the Patriots is fine by me.
Yeah,
Speaking of the Patriots,
because of your irrational confidence, Greg.
I'm telling you, man. You know what? I figured out what it is with my Titans. I can't officially be on board with irrational confidence. I have to kind of be at a distance, like where I switch my irrational confidence, and they go out and they do marvelous, wonderful things. But I don't know if you guys saw any of that, but they dominated the Patriots.
Well, you know what some of the Patriots' two worst losses this season, when you look at them you just line them up, to the Lions and the Titans.
Yeah.
What do they have in common?
Well,
Matt Patricia, Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with it.
Do you think, though, that, I'll go that route with Mike Vrabel because I think he's smart enough. But Matt Patricia doesn't strike me as the guy that could outcoach Bill Belichick, even after he walked out of Bill Belichick's coaching staff. He's not a good coach. Well, there's a theory. I've seen theories out there that they say that Belichick lets up on these guys to make them look better, and I thought he'd never do that.
I don't think Belichick gives enough of a shit.
Right.
Honestly.
That would mean he actually cared about these guys in the first place.
I think there is something to the player saying, hey, let's win this one for coach. playing his old team. Let's stack up for him. Because I know, and I don't know if they do the same thing in football, but it's widely known in hockey that they call games like this money on the board games, where players and coaches will, unofficially pool money together and put it on the whiteboard and say, hey, we win this game, we give it to player X or the coach or whoever you're playing this game for. I wouldn't doubt that same sort of thing happens in football.
Well, I think too that a part of it, and you heard Bill Simmons talk about it last week, is there are certain teams the Patriots have trouble with, and it's a defensive scheme. I forget how he described it, but the Titans fit that mold perfectly as a defense. And he said, the Patriots have trouble with teams like the Titans that can do this, this, and this. Now, I could see that and say, okay, they could hold on and win a game, but to dominate like they did, I don't know, but.
Yeah, well, the Patriots did the same things to the Titans last year, where they blew the hell out of them in that playoff game.
Yeah.
So that was also the playoff game, where maybe. But
really, the important thing coming out of this is it puts the Patriots out of the running. Well, not out of the running, but now they have to start chasing that home field advantage. And for people like us that don't want to see them in the Super Bowl again, this is good because that means that the Chiefs have a better shot at it, the Steelers maybe even. And I just like the chances of a Chargers team or a Chiefs team or even the Steelers, their chances better of beating the Patriots if they've got them in their own building as opposed to having to go to New England to do it. So that's what I'm looking at.
I saw the 14-2 Chargers lose to the Patriots.
Yeah, but that was the Marty Schottenheimer team. That doesn't count. That doesn't count because Marty decides that when the playoffs come, he decides that there are 3 plays. Run to the left, run to the right, and punt. That's it. If you can't win doing that, you didn't deserve to win anyway.
Well, right now, the Patriots are 7-3, and I don't know how the math necessarily works, but that puts the Steelers at 6-2-1 ahead of them by percentage points. And if the playoffs ended today, you'd have a more difficult choice for your Saturday afternoon game because you have Patriots-Bengals or Texans-Chargers.
No Texans-Bengals?
No, Bengals will be playing the Patriots right now.
Oh, we can't have that. We got to have Bengals-Texans for our first game.
Well, the problem is the Texans as the 4th seed, which they're going to be, will definitely play the highest wild card. And the Chargers are 7-2, and the Bengals are 5-4. So unless the Bengals go on a run,
well, now that Hue Jackson's back, you never know.
The Texans are going to host either the Chargers or the Chiefs, is what it's going to come down to.
I was looking forward to Texans Bengals 7.
Yeah, right. There's still what have we still got? About 7 weeks left. They're about 8, depending on if you get your buy or not. There's still a lot that could happen yet,
unless the Texans pass up the Patriots. Texans are 6-3. Pats are 7-3.
Still, the Patriots could still end up being 13-3 with home field advantage, because I don't think the Chiefs win against the Rams on Monday, especially now that it's at the Coliseum. And I know everybody's going to go, well, it's not a home field advantage. Well, maybe not from a fan standpoint, but the Chiefs are still on the road. They're still out of town. They're not sleeping in their own beds the whole bit, and that's a difference. So.
To be fair in that regard, too, the Rams have been practicing all week, and they're going to continue practicing in Colorado Springs.
Yeah, I know.
Because they were preparing for the altitude in Mexico City.
Right.
So yes, they're going to be playing at home, but it's kind of a road game where you've been practicing somewhere else all week and then flying into that.
But it's still their home stadium. Yeah. And crowd aside and all that other bullshit aside, there's still something to that where it's your place versus playing in somebody else's place. And I think that's going to make a big difference. Plus, I don't think Kansas City can stop them. I just don't see it happening. The Rams got way too many weapons for the Chiefs.
Yeah. The thing with the Rams, they still have a lot of weapons. They lose one with Cooper Kupp being out for the year with an ACL tear.
Yeah, that kind of hurts.
Yeah, that's a big blow. And it wasn't even like a hit to his knee or anything. It was one of those things where he went to go block somebody and just he came up limp. And like his knee just went. But let's look at some of these. So the Pats losing, I couldn't believe it when it was happening. But then I was like, oh, when somebody said, "Hey, Mike Vrabel," it kind of clicked. Like, oh yeah.
Well, I forget
it's still a weird loss at the end of it.
Yeah, it really was. And I was ready. Brady was still in the game, and I was going to text Mike and tell him to break out the picture. And anybody that follows us on Twitter knows the picture I'm referring to. Because they were on the move. And then I switched to the game and came back, and Brian Hoyer was in at quarterback. And I thought, okay, they've just decided that's it. We're getting Brady out. Not because he wasn't playing well. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Yeah. They didn't want him getting hurt.
They're just saving him.
Yeah, that's like, there's no point in leaving him out there. We're not going to win this game. We're not risking his injury. That's all that was. And I hope there isn't someone out there going, look, Brady got pulled. Yeah, to save him, not because he was playing badly.
Yeah, no, but nobody should be that hot take guy, because that hot take guy is an idiot.
Yeah.
But speaking of, quarterbacks who are perfect beings, the Seattle Seahawks lost to the Rams of Los Angeles.
Well, even Jesus eventually lost. Just saying.
Oh, God.
Yeah. What did you say? Russell Westbrook made a mistake, Greg?
Well, I thought he did, and then I thought about it some more, and I thought, no, he didn't. That's not even possible.
Like I said, you need to stop with this blasphemy. He doesn't make mistakes. It's someone else's fault, and you just need to be better at finding the other person.
And I'm just going to say, too, that, Jesus finally lost, but then he rose again 3 days later, and here's Russell Wilson on a short week playing on Thursday night. I mean, come on. You can't ask for better symbolism than that, right?
Look. Battle of LA bullshit aside, I like the Rams. They were my surprise pick to win the West last year, and then they didn't let me down. And they're a really fun team, and I dig watching them. And I'm honestly happy that the Rams are back, where they should be in LA. And so I want them to do well. So seeing them beat, Russell Westbrook twice a season, Wilson, sorry, Russell Wilson twice a season. Good to see. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing Russell Wilson eat turf. And hey, I the other thing that I was so happy that I was able to go to the game. Thank you, Madden Twitter account, for having a contest. And
wow, you actually won one of those things?
I never won those.
I thought they just did that and nobody ever actually won. That's the way I saw it.
No,
my faith in Twitter has been restored here. Okay.
I never win those things either, but it's like, hey, retweet and comment. So I retweeted it, and then my comment was a GIF from the Ramit video. And I woke up on Thursday morning with a direct message saying, hey, you won. I was like, what? Great.
Wow. Okay, well, good. Then because I see those things, I'm like, oh, shit, nobody ever wins these. I'm not going to bother. Because I've seen tweets on my personal account, win a weekend trip to watch the Blue Jackets play the Rangers in New York. And I'm like, right, nobody wins these things, blah, blah, blah. Never, I'm not even going to bother. Then I think, too, how many Blue Jackets fans could there be? My chances are probably 50-50.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is, when it came to NFL tickets from the Madden account, I was like, there's probably 100,000 people doing this. Throw my name in the hat, see what happens. And hey, it happened. But seeing the Rams in those jerseys in person for the first time. Oh, yeah. I hadn't got to see the throwbacks live, in the stadium before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
They're good?
So, having seen them play in the dull blue and white combo that they try to put out there, and then seeing them play in the throwbacks, there's no contest.
Well, I won't be spoiling anything because it'll be up before the show posts. That game made one of my best of the week this week, yesterday, the Seahawks-Rams.
Yeah, Seahawks with the interesting white over
gray. I like that look for them. I do. Yeah. I like they're all white and the white over gray. I like a lot. I think it looks really good. But yeah, even on TV, the throwbacks just are so much more vibrant than the whites are. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's better.
But yeah,
I want to say that this game is closer than it should have been, but the Seahawks and Rams just always play tight games. It was an anomaly last year. When the Rams went into Seattle and beat them by 30. Yeah. Because the game that they had played earlier in the year, the Seahawks beat them in LA. Right. It's one of those games that's always tight.
Yeah, and I think the one last year in LA was like one of those 13-10 games too, wasn't it? It was really low scoring. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And after the first quarter, the Rams' running defense stepped up. They still gave up a lot of yards on the ground total, and the Seahawks were able to run on them in both games. And that's been my biggest problem with the Rams' defense is that run stopping ability. But they did a better job after the first quarter. But the thing with fucking Russell Wilson is you can't get him to the ground. So when you do sack him, God, it was so cathartic because everyone's just like sitting there like, oh, you son of a bitch, oh my God, just get him out. And then they sack him and yeah, eat grass, you asshole. And like when I'm driving up to the game, I brought some of my friends. They're not as like diehard on some of this stuff as I am, and I'm just like, God, I hate Russell Wilson. And they're like, why? He donates his time and he seems like a really nice guy.
Fuck me, please.
And I'm just like, you guys don't get it. You don't. I tried to like explain it. And they're still kind of like, and I sounded like, and what I caught myself, I'm like, I sound like a fucking crazy person.
No, you don't understand how bad he is. Fuck him.
He's an evil person. Look at him. Just look at his eyes. And like, they're all like, I don't know, man. He takes his time. Goes to children's hospitals. He's pretty good at the game and seems like a generally nice dude. And I'm like, no, he's not.
He's evil.
He wants you to think he is. And I realized, and then eventually I just let out a big sigh, and I'm like, you know what, guys, it's sports hatred. You know, it's not rational. Don't. None of what I say makes sense. Just know that I hate him.
I'm just imagining him like he kind of just seems like a real nice guy. You're just like, that's what he wants you to think.
Right. Exactly.
It's all a plot. It's
right.
all a ploy.
Exactly.
And the Seahawks fans, I mean, they say when he misses the playoffs, it's actually good because, children's hospital time. And the one time he said, well, God wanted him to lose the Super Bowl. And I'm like, that's bullshit. I sounded like a frothing mad, like crazy man. But you guys get it. You understand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would have been right there with you. We would have probably driven off the I-5 or whatever in an accident because we'd be all yelling at these guys.
It was funny.
What else we got in the NFL we want to get to before we go to Mike's news?
I mean, okay, well, the Steelers beat the Panthers on Thursday. I think that pretty good for the Steelers, pretty bad for the Panthers.
I think that pretty much tells us everything we need to know about the Panthers and, because we were kind of trying to figure them out, and we can pretty much say that they're maybe all right, but they're not at that elite level.
I was a little concerned last week when I said I wasn't sure what to make of them. I'm still not quite sure because you never want to put a lot of stock into a Thursday night game, but wow.
I mean that's true, but it's true you never want to put a lot of stock into a Thursday night game. But let me ask you guys this: the team that the Panthers are fighting for the NFC South lead, the New Orleans Saints. If the Saints go in, do they get blown out like that?
No.
Well, there you go.
Saints, they blow out the Bengals. Ugh.
Well, thank God the Bengals have Hue Jackson.
I was going to say, the Bengals shouldn't be worried about this because their fortune's about to turn around. So.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
The Browns beat the Falcons.
I know that's a bit of an upset, but are you guys really that surprised by that? Because I'm not.
The Falcons have been
up and down all season.
Not good. I'm going to say not good.
I'm not surprised by the Falcons being down. I'm just more surprised by the Browns actually pulling out a win.
Yeah, but see, I've said all along, back during the horrible Hue Jackson time that there's talent on that team.
The horrible Hue Jackson time.
And all they need to do is just get their shit together, become more disciplined. And they showed signs of it against Kansas City, but on Sunday, when they played the Falcons, they just looked like a real football team for the first time since I can remember. And that's huge. And they dominated. Yeah. And I mean, I know the Falcons aren't good to begin with. I mean, they're up and down. Secondly, I know they have a tough time playing in the cold outdoors, so I knew that was going to be an issue. But it turns out, in our weekly picks thread, I was the only person to pick the Browns to win that game, and that wasn't a homer pick. It was just looking at the situation and going, yeah, I think the Browns can win this game. And, the fact that they've even gotten to that point where I can look at it and go, they're good enough to beat this team, that says a lot to me.
The Jags were 3-0 at one point, right?
Were they like 3-6 now?
I have been saying this for weeks. We need to get off of and I know we have, but I just like saying it because fuck this team. I hate the Jags. This team is awful, And I'm glad to see them falling back down to earth with their stupid practice jersey uniforms.
The Jaguars were 3-1, so they've lost five in a row. But they beat New England in week 2. But since they've lost by 16 to Kansas City, by 33 to Dallas, and they only lost this one by 3 to the Colts, but still coming off a bye, it's not a good sign for the.
While we're talking about that game, where are we at on the Colts? They lost a few games early they shouldn't have, but I'm telling you, they're going to be in the hunt come playoff time. That team's going to be in the hunt for a spot. Wait and see.
My opinion on the Colts is that they could be a good team if they would only fucking sign anyone else to help Andrew Luck around.
Yeah, I don't get how he's been such a one-man island for so long.
The situation we have here, it's up there. It's up there with Marino on the Dolphins, where the Dolphins just built around him, and I think we've seen glimpses of brilliance from this Colts team where they've shown they can play, and I just keep thinking, like, if they would build around him, if they would actually commit to building a team around him, they'd be fine.
I think that as in that division, Jacksonville, we can write them off. They're done.
Yeah, Jacksonville's dead.
That leaves us with the
Titans are 5-4.
Titans
are tied with the Bengals for the last playoff spot.
I don't know where to put my Titans. God, I love it. I love that they keep doing this because it just frustrates the hell out of everybody, including their fans, I'm sure.
Skins are 6-3.
Yeah, Mike, I don't know what to do about our indigenous peoples, man. I don't know where to fall on these guys.
The indigenous peoples are going to win this division by default because someone has to technically.
Well, here come the Cowboys.
The end of that Eagles-Cowboys game, I don't know what the Eagles are doing on that last drive.
Eagles aren't good. They're not good.
Eagles had a shot to win it, and they just
this Eagles
Andy
team.
Reid it all over themselves. I don't know.
This Eagles team, no, Greg's right. They are not good, and we need to collectively be okay with saying the Eagles are not good. We like Carson Wentz, but
you like Carson Wentz?
I do.
Is he okay?
I like him. I think he's pretty good.
He was an MVP candidate last year, and now he's 4-5. They brought back mostly the same team, right?
That might be a problem too.
I don't know that they lost too many guys.
Well, here's a better question, though.
Yeah, Carson Wentz was coming off the injury, and he didn't have all the preseason, whatever, but I don't know.
Well, here's a better question, though. Okay, were they that good last year? Or were they the beneficiaries of an easy schedule? And let's be honest, if Atlanta doesn't do what Atlanta does, which is get to the 5 and not be able to find a way to get the ball over the end zone, they're not even in the Super Bowl last year. And then they get a Patriots team that, again, it sounds silly to say it because they're in the Super Bowl like every other year, but they're not as good as they used to be. They're beatable now. And everything that could have possibly gone right for the Eagles in that game, in that Super Bowl, went right. I mean, right down to the Philly special, every bit of it, everything worked perfectly. So the question is, were they really even that good last year?
Even then, even with everything going right, Tom Brady still had a chance to tie it in the last second of the game. Brian Burke said Gary Bettman is more important to hockey than Wayne Gretzky.
Wow, what a stupid thing to say.
It was on CBC. Here we go. Here is the story.
Yeah, I'm sure it's something about how he's made the league a whole bunch of money. But a good point that I've heard raised, every single league is experiencing record revenues right now, right?
Yeah.
But the thing with the NHL is that, when Gary took over, they were in a spot where they could have legitimately challenged the NBA.
It was in Sports Illustrated, wasn't it? The NHL was going to challenge the NBA.
Yeah, the NHL is hot, the NBA is not. That was the cover with Mark Messier. Mm-hmm. And since then, they've had the most lockouts out of any of those leagues. They're the only league in North America to have canceled an entire season.
Yeah,
and they played for a few years on the Outdoor Life Network and Versus.
With the best set ever, by the way. I love that OLN set.
And all this shit. It's just yes, everybody's revenues are up, But the NHLs could be so much higher if they weren't being run by this fucking buffoon who canceled seasons, put us on obscure networks, took our players out of the Olympics, all this other concussion lawsuits.
You know, the thing that I think the most frustrating thing to me, well, there's a lot of things frustrating, but the one that sticks in my craw the most with Gary Bettman and the whole TV thing is that you ended up going to NBC and the Outdoor Life Network and all that essentially for free. There were no rights fees paid for the first year or two. You could ESPN would have taken that deal and you could have just kept right on going. I think you had established an audience at ESPN. You know what I mean? Why? I don't get that. And if there's no money involved,
the NHL I don't know. The NHL probably felt slighted for
whatever. But
just
take a look at that. That set is beautiful.
Oh yeah, cable access.
Right after the game tonight, we're gonna go deer hunting in the hills of Missouri.
Oh, that's
fucking
what happened.
Stupid.
No, that is what happened.
That is what happened. And the best part was, even when they changed the network name to make it not seem like it was that, it was still that.
Yeah.
Because that's the only programming they had licenses to for so many years.
That's what I mean. I mean, if you're going to go with a rights-free, deal or money-free deal, stay at ESPN.
It's
established.
It's still not that much better now because occasionally you leave NBCSN on, and after the games they'll have like the Barrett Jackson car auctions.
Right, yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, sure, I'll bid on this 1976 Camaro soft top.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I love the set, though, because it looks like if the late game, runs long, the janitor is going to kick them out because, the grade 9, AV club's got a project to shoot.
Dude,
and they need the space.
Our set at my little tiny government TV station was every bit as good as that. And we even had a TV in the back of ours. Well, anyway, we about ready to wrap it up, fellas?
The NHL and OLN is always a good topic to end on.
All right. Well, then we will call it a night from here. And don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at Basically Sports. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, and YouTube, and find us on Facebook. Thanks for tuning in.
Later.